Welcome back, everybody. And parents, this is a really interesting story for you. As state testing begins for students, you might notice that your child is either struggling or perhaps getting stressed while keeping up with the heavy workload in the classroom and then being tested on top of it. It's a critical time for the future, and we are on your side giving you the best tips to make sure that your child is successful once testing does begin. And joining me now is Tim O'Shea, who is the Executive Director of the Education Revolution Association. Thanks, Tim, for being here.
Thanks, Melissa, for having me.
So for those who don't know, explain, what is ERA?
Sure. ERA is a nonprofit that's based in Ohio and has an operation here in Buffalo. Founded by an entrepreneur, Fred Odie, who grew up in Buffalo, was a teacher for a little while in the 70s. Felt like even in the 70s, kids were over-tested and teachers were forced to take a cookie-cutter approach. He left teaching, founded a software company, sold it, and is now putting millions into education to address the problem we're talking about, teaching kids more to the test of life and getting them ready for life, and putting much less emphasis on standardized testing and pure academics.
Yeah, I think that a lot of parents are kind of sometimes worried about the state testing and the pressure that it does put on their children. And really, what is it testing? Is it testing the student, or is it testing the teacher or the school district all around? So what is the state of state testing right now?
It's funny, it's doing all of those things that you're talking about. So the first thing to know, if there's one thing people remember from this conversation today, I would hope it would be this. New York State is moving away from this heavy emphasis on standardized testing. That doesn't mean the testing's going away, it'll be here. But New York State is moving toward a document called a Portrait of a Graduate that identifies 6 characteristics students should have when they leave high school and go out into the world. Academic preparedness, that's the testing, is one of those. But the other ones are like creativity, critical thinking, global citizenship, being able to look to being a futuristic person, being able to look to the future and plan. So schools, therefore, also are making a shift toward those things. So is ERA.
Okay, and so, which should be, peace of mind or some comfort for students who don't do well with standardized tests, because they can get so nervous. They might be the brightest student in the class, but it's not reflected necessarily in how they test.
100%. If you are a great test taker, if your child is a great test taker, that's incredible. That's a great skill. It is not necessarily one that will translate directly into success in career and life, but it's an indicator that, you're good in high pressure situations at demonstrating your knowledge, right? So the way that parents can put these tests in context for their children is these are like a snapshot in time. This is showing how you perform on, if it's this week in New York, an ELA exam, an English Language Arts exam. If it's at the end of the month here in New York for grades 3 through 8, it's a math exam. It's showing what you know, what you need to work on. It's also showing how well your school and your teachers are performing on these tests. Not necessarily in teaching the whole child, but on these tests. So they're a snapshot, and that's really what parents need to remember and help impart to their kids.
And what should parents be looking for or telling their kids regarding the state testing and looking for as far as nerves and anxiety?
Yeah, so on the nerves and anxiety, the place to start on that is, and this is what I think of as a parent too. My daughter's 20 now, so she's honestly, thankfully, she's through the testing. But what we would always tell her, and me as a teacher, what I'd always impart to students is, these tests are good practice, and this is good for parents to remember too. They're really good practice in handling high pressure situations, which you're gonna do in life. You're gonna have interviews, you're gonna have big presentations, you're gonna have big decisions to make. These tests are early practice in handling high pressure situations. However, if you don't do well, the implications of that are not necessarily that high. It's not gonna change the course of your life doing great or not doing as well as you hope. They're going to give you, again, I'll come back to that phrase, a snapshot of how you are doing today in that particular subject.
Okay, that's really good advice to let them know, this it's not going to make or break
it's a thing.
you.
Yeah,
but it's something that perhaps can help you out as far as the high pressure situation. Do Do you recommend for parents who are really concerned about it that they opt out? I mean, opting out during COVID and around those years was a really, really controversial thing. Do we opt out or don't we? And I was looking up in the 24-25 school year, state data said about 12% of eligible students did end up opting out, or their parents opted their student out. But in Hamburg, it was 33% opted out for math. Alden was 32, Nacker-Wheatfield 29. What do you suggest about opting out?
All right, personal opinion only. Make the choice that's best for your child. I don't think it needs to be done as a statement anymore. There was a time where there were a lot of parents doing exactly what they have the right to do. They would pull their children out of the testing, in part because they thought it'd be better for their child, which is great, but also to send a message to the state that we don't want so much emphasis on these tests. That message has been, at least in my view, that message has been received in New York State and around the country too. Most states are now moving away from heavy testing, not all, but most. So you don't need to do it as a statement, but look at your child. And like, if your child is experiencing just a little bit of anxiety and nerves over a test, I would look at it as a good opportunity to do what we were just talking about, teach them how to handle the pressure, give them some practice. If your child is experiencing like deep nerves, and parents know their kids, they can see if there's more of a fight or flight response coming out. I'm thinking of a stat I saw that high stakes testing can jack up the amount of cortisol, that stress hormone that our body produces. And for some people, and some children in particular, it can really surge, and you can really tell that it's affecting your kid. If that's happening, I would consider pulling them out. The implications of pulling your child from the testing are not high, right? It's a little bit less information you're going to have on their performance. It's a little bit less information that the schools will have, but there's so much more to learning than how you do on math or English exams.
They can't pull them out of Regents though, right?
Well, so it's funny with Regents. Right now there's certain, it depends on if you're in public or private school too, but if you're in a school that requires Regents, public schools, there are 5 Regents exams that are required for graduation. However, for people out there who have a younger child, that's beginning to change in 2027.
With the portrait of the graduate.
With the portrait of the graduate, and New York State is starting to roll back the Regents requirements.
I'm sure that, those parents who did speak up by opting their child out probably are happy that, the state is pulling back on some of these standardized tests. But finally, to wrap things up, advice for parents. You said, mention to the student that this is not something that's going to make or break them or follow them along. Any other advice that you can give, that parents can give to their child when they do have to go in and take the test if they are nervous, or any physical things that they can do or things that they can think about to get through it?
Yeah, I mean, the first one is get a good night's sleep the night before. Eat a good breakfast. And as basic as this sounds, there's a reason that we always hear this advice. Don't go to school hungry. Rest, eat, take a deep breath, count, some meditation techniques, count to 10 slowly, count backwards from 10 slowly, little things like that. Listen to music before, stress ball, whatever works for your child, just to lower that fight or flight response. That's where I'd go with it.
Really good advice. All right, Timo Shai from Education Revolution Association, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. All right. Well,